Are you struggling trying to decide whether or not you should go after this new certification that you're being asked to do? Whether you're an engineer or the compliance team, you're getting asked, either by engineering or sales teams in particular, oh, we can't go sell this product unless we get this certification in this new area. Well, if you are struggling on that, today I'm going to give you 3 tips and things to consider in order to ensure that you're really doing the right thing for your product and the company in terms of cost and return on investment. My name's Milan, and in the decades I've spent both on the engineering side, where I was the release manager, development operations leader, and compliance owner for a $5 billion development project, to now on the compliance side, where I manage SaaS certifications for a large provider, this is an ongoing challenge even to today, even at a senior level. Where should you go invest? Because it is a false belief that your product actually has to have all the certifications that are out there, even if your competitors have them. It doesn't necessarily mean that you and your company have a plan or actually can make any revenue to offset the costs, because it's very expensive. The first tip is really about understanding what I call the TCC, the total cost of certification or compliance. Now, this is important because if you think about total cost of ownership, which is a topic that everybody understands, this focuses it in on what it really costs to go after certification. Because my experience really has been people completely underestimate the cost and the complexity of certifications. That's because for this feature, there are 4 different teams that actually have to feed into it, that actually can have a big cost associated with any new certification. Obviously, your internal compliance team is number 1. My team, like, we have to go figure out, are we doing any of that work today? How many controls are there? What do we have, any gaps? Do we have any known blockers based on engineering? Usually that there's a lot of work for the compliance team to do. You also have the engineering team, like the actual feature teams. Are there controls that just don't exist in the product today? Or is there reporting that doesn't exist in the product today? It's very important because we find that as all of the worldwide regulations and certifications keep upping the requirements, these can actually be feature requirements, such as, moving up the security thresholds for encryption past what the product does today. Engineering team may have to go do work if you want to play in that realm. You also have the security team. Are there new security configurations? Is there new monitoring that has to be done? They usually can have an uplift. And then you have the operations team, which really owns change management, disaster recovery, and a lot of the standard controls that continue to be increased as we continue to globalize. So without all 4 of those teams working on this feature and understanding the costs, my experience is that the certification can have a much higher cost than just the dollar amount that people talk about, because certifications can be anywhere from 30 to hundreds of thousands of dollars just to bring auditors in to gather and review the evidence. So the second tip is, if you're any one of 4 of those pillars, you don't want to take sole responsibility for the decision. As the compliance owner, a lot of times sales will approach me, or even engineering, and say, hey, we really want to get this certification. There's this market we want to go after. Milan, you got to go get the certification. Okay, but like we talked about, I'm not the only one that has work to do. Even if I said yes, then you're just going to create a lot of tension. When I go to the security team and the operations team, and even the engineering team, if sales is asking, say, why did you commit to this? We don't have time. We've got other work to go do. These new certifications have to be balanced with all the other engineering work that these teams may have. So tip number 2 is, don't take sole responsibility for the decision and say yes without pulling in your partners. The third tip is that you really have to drive the sales team to really understand, are their numbers good? A lot of times sales team will say, hey, there's a $1 billion opportunity, which is a market opportunity in this area. But when I dig in, I find that, okay, there is, but they don't even have a sales plan yet. It's a chicken and egg problem to some people, which is, if you don't have the certification, the sales team is not going to go try to figure out how much market's there. But frankly, the way the engineering team looks at it is no different than a feature a customer wants, say, for the UX. The sales team with their customer base has to justify that there is a return on investment for that compliance feature. Is there actually going to be money coming in? Because I can tell you, I know engineering leaders who have been burnt by this from the sales team. They say, yes, we can go get you 20 million annual return on the product if you can give us this certification, which requires all this engineering work. that they couldn't do in other areas because they had reprioritized, and then nearly nothing comes back. So it's really incumbent upon the sales teams. And I find that the higher you go in the management chain, the more they really understand that. So to get them to give you really good sales projections and plans can really help you as the compliance owner or engineering team justify with the partners that there's a real opportunity to recoup the money that it's going to cost to go get this certification. So the bonus tip is really for the compliance team, but it could be for anybody that runs this, is you can be the hero and actually do a really good gap analysis to understand what would be called the uplift. For example, new certifications and frameworks usually have a whole bunch of controls that have to go get met. But it's really challenging, unless you have a really good system, to go say, hey, I can actually cover 60 to 80% of these controls with evidence and controls we already have for other systems. So the uplift and cost will only be this 20 to 30 to 40%. It's a very powerful story for the partners, whether it's security or engineering or compliance. If sales is asking to say, look, if they get more solid numbers and they have a plan to sell, the uplift is only not this much, but this much, then it becomes a better win-win for everyone. But it does take somebody to take the lead in understanding and pulling together what the overall gaps may be with what you're already doing today. Very complicated issue. I'll probably end up doing a live stream on it so I can do a lot of Q&A. I get a ton of questions on this. But if this has been valuable to you, I'd appreciate a like. And if you subscribe and hit the bell, you'll get notified when there's new topics. And also importantly, I'd love to hear from you. What have you done in this space, or what have you observed that really helped you make this decision about whether or not your product should go after new certifications? Thanks, and have a great day.